My name is Lonnie Swigert. I'm a locomotive engineer.
And why don't you talk about the issue of health and safety at your railroad in general? What's happening with health and safety on the railroads?
Health and safety on the railroads is, our lifestyles are very different than a normal lifestyle. You work on call. You're out on a train for hours on end. You don't eat the healthiest lifestyle, so then that affects your health. Period. When you're ill, you're not allowed to call off work. They kind of strong arm you into going to work, threaten you with your job, tell you got to call. When you do call the people who you're supposed to call, they tell you got to call a higher official, and it gets to the point where guys are afraid to actually mark off. You go to work sick, and everybody else gets sick, and you have to take chances with your health and your life. So.
And there have been a number of escalating accidents in the railroad industry on the country. What is causing all these accidents?
Fatigue. Fatigue's a lot of them. You have long hours, call windows. There's no call windows. You work on call 24 hours a day. Most of the major accidents usually happen when, like, the twilight hours, between 4 and 6 a.m. when the sun's getting ready to come up. But your human body wants to be asleep. You do the best you can to stay rested and to be safe at work, but it brings up issues. So.
What happened and why your union took action? Your union took action, and what were the health and safety issues in your union?
As in, I'm sorry.
What happened? You took action, and
Why we went on strike?
Yeah.
Actually, what happened?
Why don't you talk about your railroad, and if you want to?
I work for a regional railroad, and basically it's a smaller short line. There was about 100 employees at the time. Now we're about 150. We haul a lot of dangerous freight, and our contract requires that 2 men be on the head end of every train, engineer and a trainman. And that is solidified by the trainman's contract. And what had happened was they took the place of us, the working crafts. The supervisors actually ran the trains. So, and with one person, without a trainman on there, or conductor, known as conductor, was not on the train, and they did it a couple times in a row, and this was back in 2013.
And why is that dangerous to operate without a conductor?
It's just, there's so much. The railroads love to talk about tonnage, and the reason they use tons for a train only weighs 4,000 tons. Well, each ton's 2,000 pounds, so you got to add, that's a lot of weight. And along with that, you have to inspect both sides of your train. You're not allowed to stand up out of the seat per federal rules, to stand up out of that engineer seat to go check the other side of the train. So he needs to be there. If there's a crossing accident or a derailment or a crossing that the lights and gates aren't working, and you got to flag that crossing, you need a second person for that. Anything could happen. Health-related issues happen, and
you can have a heart attack or something.
Yeah, you have to have someone else. It's a checks and balances system, and when it comes to securing a train, it's the conductor's job to tie the brakes. It's the engineer's job to test them. If you come down with one person's doing all the jobs, there's no fail-safe.
So multitasking is not.
Yeah, and with the newer locomotives, there's computer screens, and they're telling you to do all this stuff, and it's almost task overload. You're trying to watch your train, you're trying to maintain speed, you're trying to read your bulletins, make sure because the track might be a 40-mile-an-hour track, but then there's 25-mile-an-hour slow order here, 10-mile-an-hour slow order here, work authority here. There's guys out here ripping tracks out, working on tracks, and you're trying to keep track of all that, maintain your speed, make sure you're not blowing slow orders, like running through slow orders too fast where you'll derail, not running people over, blowing for crossings, paying attention to what milepost you're at, looking for signals or taking track warrants, depending if it's dark territory or signal territory. It's task overload. And now they have new computer systems on the newer engines, and one's called a leader system, and it's shooting messages at you telling you what you should be doing. So now you're trying to do everything else and do that, and it's at the same time it's telling you to do something, you're following its instructions, and then you have alarms going off saying you're going too fast for the other computer. So there's just a multitude of things to do.
Is that increasing the danger? All this computerization?
I believe it takes away your concentration, a lot of it. So.
And your members were forced to take action at some point?
Yes, after the management took the responsibility of our jobs away instead of calling contract employees to do them, we actually did, and that was back in 2013. So.
And what happened?
We were adjoined by a federal judge after 13 hours, and then
what does enjoin mean?
we were ordered back to work.
Okay.
And After about a month, they made it a permanent injunction. Then our union fought it in
What union is that?
the Brotherhood of Locomotive Engineers and Trainmen fought it in the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals in Cincinnati, Ohio, and we won. And it's still under appeal. It has surpassed the appeal process of the circuit court, and it's on to the appellate court now.
And what is the company saying? Why are they saying appealing this ruling?
They don't really talk about it, but they want
They want to be able to run without.
they want to run one-man trains. That's the thing. But what we did find out on the 16th of March this month, in contract negotiations, National Mediation Board in Washington D.C., they did actually drop that request. And we don't know why they dropped it, but they did drop it. And I'm sure it was due to pressure, because to the point now we've been 5 years negotiating. It's almost time to either drop one-man crew or get us released to go on strike again. And I believe that's what caused it. So.
And I mean, they've argued that the computerization, the technology is actually helping protect your safety. It makes things even more safe.
Yeah, they do say that. That's usually on larger railroads than what I'm on when they have the wide bodies, when they're talking PTC. But they say computers don't make mistakes, people do. Who builds computers? Who makes computers? So technologies do fail. And
this company, or these small regional companies, how are they substandard, and how does that affect the workers who work on them?
They're not as big as the big guys, so they don't make as much money. So of course they want to make maximum profits. So we don't make the money that the bigger railroads do. We don't expect to working for a regional, but safety is still issues, and you got to make sure the maintenance is up to par and equipment's up to par. Otherwise, dangerous things happen. So.
And how are communities affected by this?
Every crossing is a chance for something devastating to happen. I mean, if you find a bad spot in the track, rail breaks, equipment fails, and if something happens and we go on the ground or I go in emergency, there's no second guy there to go back and check to see, do we have any chemicals leaking or anything like that, along with, is there crossings blocked where EMS or fire department might have to try to get across, and how long is it going to be before someone does get there to help me cut the crossing? There's a multitude of things.
Now, under OSHA and the Federal Labor Relations or Railway Act, there's supposed to be protection for workers who speak out about health and safety. Are they working, and are people able to speak out about health and safety?
I don't think so. I mean, it's the Whistleblower Act, and it was part of the Federal Railroad Safety Act of 2008. There's OSHA provisions, and when people get injured, they hold investigations, and they discipline them. Some people get fired, and guys are afraid to actually even file the paperwork, because even when you do file, a lot of people don't get any help.
So there's intimidation and
there's definitely intimidation, yes.
So if people are afraid to speak out about their health and safety, what does that mean for workers and the public?
Yeah. Well, it makes it a whole dangerous environment for everybody, especially if you're coming to work sick. And, it's just bad. I mean, if you're sick, you don't go to work. You don't go to work because you're compromised. And if you're compromised, why are you running a train that weighs, 30 million pounds?
So you think people are waking up now? There's been a lot of opposition to this one-man train among railroad workers. Why don't you talk about that?
We hope they're waking up. We've been trying to politicize it. We try to pass laws on the state level, on the national level, and the Federal Railroad Administration seems to be taking note of the situation to an extent now. And the companies want to maximize profits, so they want less people on the train, less employees, less healthcare costs, and personally, I want to go home to my wife and kids at the end of the day, so I want somebody there to make sure if something does happen to me that I can get help, or something happens hitting someone at a crossing. I've been involved with grade crossing accidents. I want someone to be able to help the person that is injured, make sure everything's okay, what's going on, fuel leak, whatever, what have you.
And what union are you with?
Brotherhood of Locomotive Engineers and Trainmen.
Mm-hmm. And Ohio, they tried to pass an anti-labor law there with
Yes.
the governor. What was that all about?
They basically they call it right to work, and it's basically right to work for less. It takes away all your bargaining power. Basically, guys don't have to pay dues if they don't want to be part of the union. But then even if they don't pay dues to my union, I'm still responsible to represent them. it's a way for, how you say, big money to break the unions is what the whole concept is. So.
And well, Governor Kasich says he's the man of the moment, to really take care of things. What do you think has happened in Ohio since he's been governor?
Yeah, it's to say the least, I'm not a fan. How's that?
He was defeated in that bill.
Yes, he tried to pass a bill to gut the teachers' unions and the firemen and the police. And I mean, the most vulnerable people, you want to go after the people that protect us and the people that teach our children. I mean, what does that say about you as a person, let alone as a political party? I mean, you're trying to take away from the people that protect you. It don't make any sense to me.
The future of labor. What do you see happening with working people in this country? They're under attack. They're blamed. Railroad workers are blamed for accidents. I mean, it seems like teachers are blamed for the education crisis.
There needs to be an uprising, a grassroots movement. We need a labor party in this country. We need a third party, someone who's there to protect the workers, protect the teachers, protect the firemen, the policemen. How can we let companies, should I say, the Coe brothers as an example, to just buy everything and run things into the ground? You make nothing while they're making billions. All we ask for is a fair day's wage for a fair day's work. We're not asking to make what they make. We're just asking that we get paid our fair share. So.